Bread sits in almost every kitchen on Earth. Cheap, simple, the definition of an everyday food. But this simple food may be the single reason human civilization exists in its current form at all. Some archaeologists now believe humans didn't start farming wheat because they wanted bread. They may have started farming because they wanted beer, and bread came along for the ride. Long before farming even began, hunter-gatherers in the Middle East were already grinding wild grains into flour to make simple flatbreads. Archaeologists found charred remains of flatbread in Jordan dating back over 14,000 years. Thousands of years before agriculture existed. For thousands of years, all bread was flat and dense. Then, almost certainly by accident, someone left a batch of dough sitting out too long, and wild yeast got in. That accidental fermentation created the first leavened bread, lighter, softer, and completely different from anything eaten before. The ancient Egyptians took this discovery and turned it into an industry. Egyptian bakeries mass-produced dozens of bread varieties, and bread became so central to daily life that workers were often paid in loaves instead of coins. Some historians even argue that the pyramids themselves were built by workers fed largely on bread and beer rations, not slaves, but paid laborers sustained by these two staples. Bread wasn't just food in ancient Egypt. It was currency, ritual, and one of the foundations of one of history's greatest civilizations. Rome inherited this obsession with bread and took it even further, turning it into a tool of political control. The Roman state distributed free or subsidized grain and bread to hundreds of thousands of citizens, a practice historians link directly to the phrase bread and circuses. The idea was simple and cynical: keep the population fed and entertained, and they were far less likely to revolt. In medieval Europe, bread wasn't just food. It was social status, baked into a rigid hierarchy. The wealthy ate fine white bread made from finely sifted flour, while peasants ate coarse, dark bread made from whatever grain, often mixed with barley, rye, or even bran, was left over. You could tell someone's social class in medieval Europe simply by looking at the color of the bread on their table. Bread taxes, mill monopolies, and grain shortages repeatedly triggered riots across medieval and early modern Europe. For most of history, white bread was a luxury only the wealthy could afford. Then industrial milling changed everything. New roller mills could remove the bran and germ far more efficiently, making fine white flour cheap enough for ordinary families for the first time in history. But that efficiency came with a hidden cost. Stripping away the bran and germ also stripped away most of the grain's natural nutrients. By the early 20th century, nutritional deficiencies became common enough that governments eventually required refined flour to be fortified with vitamins and iron by law. Today, bread is grown, milled, baked, and shipped on a scale ancient bakers could never have imagined. A food that may have inspired the very first farms, fed the builders of the pyramids, kept an empire calm, and marked the boundaries of social class, now sits sliced and wrapped on every store shelf. The next time you tear into a loaf of bread, remember, this humble food may have quietly shaped more of human history than almost anything else we eat.